Welcome to this module on forgetting curve, decay theory and interference theory. I am Dr. Eulalia Fernandez, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Psychology at St. Xavier's College, MAPSA. In this module, I will talk about the forgetting curve, theories of forgetting and ways to improve memory. At the end of this session, you will understand the nature of forgetting. You will learn to differentiate among the different processes involved in forgetting and learn the different strategies for improving memory. Now, memory failure is an all too common phenomenon of our daily life. Sometimes these memory slips may be fairly simple, such as forgetting to return a call. At other times, they may be serious, involving dire consequences, such as an eyewitness forgetting details of a crime. Let us first look at the forgetting curve. Hermann Ebbinghaus was one of the first researchers to study forgetting. He used several lists of nonsense syllables to study memory, and the result of his studies was the curve of forgetting. This curve or graph shows that forgetting happens quickly within the first hour after learning the list and then tapers off gradually. So forgetting is greatest just after learning occurs. So basically one has to revisit or rehearse the information that you've learned sooner rather than later. Now, why do we forget? Is it because we did not encode the information in the first place, or we did not memorize the information well? There could be several reasons for memory failure. Encoding failure or failure to process information into memory is one of the possible reasons. That is, encoding is not done in the first place. Here, forgetting takes place from the sensory register. Sometimes, due to lack of rehearsal or repetition, we may experience memory failure. Here, the forgetting takes place from the short-term memory. Forgetting from the long-term memory is due to inability to retrieve information that has been stored. So basically, forgetting from the short-term memory is quicker, whereas from the long-term memory is gradual. Our memories fail in part due to inadequate encoding and storage, and in part due to the inability to accurately retrieve stored information. There are several theories that address why we forget memories and information over time. We shall look at each one of these in detail. They include the decay theory, interference theory, cue-dependent forgetting, replacement theory, and repression. According to the decay theory, information gets lost or fades away if it is not used now and then. In other words, memory traces may decay and fade into nothing. Information that is not brought to attention in sensory memory or continuously rehearsed in the short-term memory will fade away. So this process begins almost immediately if the information is not used. For example, sometimes we forget a person's name even though we have just met them. When referring to long-term memory, the decay theory is usually called as the disuse theory, and it is referred to by the phrase use it or lose it. Another possible explanation for long-term memory forgetting is the interference theory. Long-term memories may be stored permanently in the brain. However, those memories may not always be accessible to attempted retrieval because other information interferes. Similar information generally interferes with the stored or retrieval of information. This interference can come from two directions, which is called as proactive interference and retroactive interference. Proactive interference is a tendency for older or previously learned material to interfere with the retrieval of newer, more recently learned material, such as when outdated scientific facts interfere with the ability to remember updated facts. So what is learned earlier or first interferes with what is learnt later. An example would be growing up being taught that Pluto is a planet in our solar system, then being told as an adult that Pluto is no longer considered a planet. Having such a strong memory would negatively impact the recall of the new information. And when asked how many planets there are. Someone who grew up thinking of Pluto as a planet might say 9 instead of 8. The second kind of interference is the retroactive interference, which is a tendency for newer information to interfere with the retrieval of older information. This often occurs when hearing recent news figures, then trying to remember earlier facts and figures becomes difficult. So what is learned later interferes with prior information. For example, a teacher learning the names of a new class of students at the start of a school year might find it more difficult to recall the names of the students in her class last year. Cue-dependent forgetting. When we store a memory, we not only record all sensory data, we also store our mood and emotional state. So our current mood thus will affect memories that are most effortlessly available to us, such that when we are in a good mood, we recollect good memories and vice versa. This suggests that we are sometimes cued to remember certain things, for example, by our emotional state or environment. Cue-dependent forgetting, also known as retrieval failure, is a failure to recall information in the absence of memory cues. Retrieval cues are aids which help us in recovering information stored in the memory. So contents of memory may become inaccessible either due to absence or inappropriateness of retrieval cues that are available or employed at the time of recall. According to the replacement theory, incoming information replaces old information. New memories can make old memory untraceable, and this change can bring in temporary forgetfulness. Finally, we have repression. Now, some individuals undergo experiences that are traumatic. A traumatic experience emotionally hurts a person. Sigmund Freud posited that such experiences are repressed into the unconsciousness and are not available for retrieval from memory. Such repression may also be referred to as motivated forgetting. Painful, threatening, and embarrassing memories are held out of consciousness. It is also referred to as amnesia, which means loss of personal information, which could result due to either physiological causes or psychogenic amnesia, and secondly, psychological causes, also known as psychological amnesia. So, repression or motivated forgetting may be reluctance and not really inability to remember information. Now, of course, we all experience memory failure and the consequences of it regularly, and there are methods or strategies for improving memory. We shall look at some of the strategies here. Effective encoding can help to have a better memory, and here automatic encoding versus effortful encoding can be paid attention to. So one can encode information in a more deliberate, effortful manner, such as through time management, planning, paying attention, understanding the matter, and trying to avoid distraction. Rehearsal. Maintenance rehearsal and elaborative rehearsal. Elaborative rehearsal, which refers to a deep kind of processing, helps to enhance memory. While trying to study, example of elaborative rehearsal would mean taking notes, summarizing, drawing out an outline, constructing concept maps, writing comments on 1/4 of the left edge, reviewing notes periodically. All this would produce better memory. Besides that, we also have mnemonics, which are strategies for improving memory. These are certain kind of organizational strategies that help enhance memory. The method of loci. In order to use this method, items you want to remember are placed as objects arranged in a physical space in the form of visual images. This method is particularly helpful in remembering items in a serial order. It requires that you first visualize objects or places that you know well in a specific sequence. Imagine the objects you want to remember and associate them one by one to the physical locations. Chunking is another mnemonic device which involves putting together several smaller units and combining them into larger chunks. Next, we have acronyms or first letter technique. In order to employ this technique, you need to pick up the first letter of each word you want to remember and arrange them to form another word or a sentence. For example, you are all too familiar with the term Vibgyor, which stands for the colors of the rainbow. Here are the books for reference. Thank you.